Hello, and welcome to the Finding the Unicorn in You podcast. I'm Dr. Jaime G. Raygoza, a life coach, psychologist, and your host. Join me on a journey to inspire and transform ordinary lives into something special. Here, we celebrate the unicorns, those who choose not to follow the ordinary conventional path, but rather chase after their dreams and choose the path less taken, making them truly unique. Together, we'll explore powerful life coaching techniques and hear from special guests who embody the spirit of unicorns in their own way. What are we waiting for? Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Finding the Unicorn in You. Today, we have a special individual who is 70 going on 50. He calls himself the Jackhammer. After 16 years of being down and out, he reinvented himself in the real estate business. In 3.5 years, he helped investors find over $40 million in property acquisitions. He's also the author of The Jackhammer Effect, How to Break Down Doors and Make Business Deals. For those who can't, he'll talk a little bit more about that and what he's currently doing. So without further ado, welcome Myron Wellick.
Very excited. Thank you very much for having me, Dr. Hyman. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for being on. So talk to us about the Jackhammer Effect.
Yeah, basically it's like capital perseverance, tenacity, never giving up unless you health-wise, you're screwed. I am 70 going on 50. And this, we're doing this in, when are we? November 18th, 2023 today, even though this will come out in March or April, like you said, 2024. So in January, everybody, it'll be 71 going on 51. I like that because that's January 23rd is my birthday. Happy birthday, whatever. So I ran a business for many years, apparel clothing business. I lost it 21, 22, 23 years ago in a bankruptcy. And besides obviously the emotional repercussions, financial repercussions, they were emotional. And it was absolutely devastating. I really lost myself for a while. One of the few things that saved me, or from still being able to talk to you, was my wife stayed with me. I've been married to the same woman for 36 years. So if you're very lucky in life to find actually the one, someone who loves you, no matter what, you're very lucky. You have no idea how lucky you are. So she understood, she lived for better or for worse, in words, and absolutely incredible. Her name is Laura, and she's from Brooklyn. Maybe that's why. But Brooklyn, I don't know. But whatever, but extraordinarily lucky to have met her. I think lucky to have met her than her meet me, but whatever. But that certainly helped. But that in itself doesn't resurrect me. I have to still take care of me and feel good about me. Okay. Our relationship is one thing. Our kids are another thing, which are phenomenal. But Myron still has to take care of Myron, as you can appreciate, to be able to appreciate everything else. Unfortunately, for 16 odd years, even though I was an entrepreneur and built the business from zero to a serious amount of dollars a year, I lost my self-esteem. I lost my mojo, as they say. I lost any desire, as one would expect, to do anything. Fortunately, I still woke up every day, and I still got up. I got dressed, even though many times I had nowhere to go. And I think one of the other main things that kept me going, and I really was like an emotional, professional wasteland for 16 years, believe it. And I wish it wasn't 16 years, because from 49 to about 67, it was literally in the middle of a desert, but an emotional desert, not a physical. I wish it was a physical. Maybe that would have been exciting and interesting, but there was no such luck. And after hitting rock bottom, literally, it took me 16 years to slowly but surely come back and find myself. And one of the main things I did, consciously or not consciously, and I wrote about it, it's called 40 Ways to Stay Young. I stayed young. And by staying young, I don't mean I ran to the gym necessarily, if I did, or watched my diet, or traditional ways of staying young. Yeah, of course I age, as you can see. I'm right here like everybody else. 50 is 50, 60 is 60. By staying young, and I'm not even sure why, but something in me was not ready to give up or surrender. Maybe something bigger than me knew there was something for me still to do and would give me a second chance. If I can hang on the cliff, so to speak, someone would come and rescue me. Me would rescue me. What I would do is I would go to many networking and entrepreneurial meetups, which were mainly focused on the technology business. And as we both know, Dr. Hyman and your audience, most of the people that go to these entrepreneurial events and meetups are in their 20s and 30s. You're rarely going to get anybody in their 60s, 70s. They're just not going to go, obviously. And I understand that for good reasons. They're past that. Maybe they did when they were 20 or 30, but today, these people are just beginning their careers. So hope, there's an abundance of hope and optimism and excitement and enthusiasm. They're just building. And that was infectious. And consciously or not consciously, I did that on a very regular basis, once a week, once every 2 weeks for 10 years. And often I would sit alone and go somewhere, and whether it was crying or just beside myself and saying, will it ever change? Will it ever get better? Because when you're down and out for that long and nothing changes, sometimes you get to feel that nothing ever will change. And you're running out of time. Literally, you're running out of time. Because at the end of the day, I'm very cognizant that I am 70 going on 50. I'm not 40 or 30. I wish it is what it is, right? To use the cliche. Fortunately, I have my health. But fortunately, things did change a little bit. And if they could change for me, they could change for anybody. And I wrote on my Facebook, and I'd love to send it to anybody in your audience, 40 ways to stay young. And it's really cool. One of them, by the way, is listen to the Beatles. Love the Beatles, by the way. That's it. I know it may sound funny, but it's not. And make sure, everybody should make sure, come home to someone they can't wait to come home to. And so there's 40 that none of us can live or practice every day, obviously, but it's like a lot of things that you read, it's an inspiration, something to aspire to remind you, to be that life alarm clock in your head. So I survived by working odd jobs. Again, like I told you, my wife stood by me, but I sought to take care of me professionally and financially eventually. And so it took me at 67 years old, I by accident met this young man. And some people, again, at a network event feel it wasn't by accident, that there was an angel or somebody. I'm not a religious person in the traditional sense. I'm not. I'm spiritual, but I'm not. For whatever the reason, I'm not. So I don't know the reason why, but it was peculiar because this person who met me was in his 30s, a young entrepreneur, and he was building a real estate business. And these meetups had nothing to do with real estate, Dr. Ivan. They all were technology driven. So he really, if you'd look at it, you could ask him, what were you doing there? And you really had no reason to be there. It was 8:00 at night. But the subject matter had nothing to do with real estate. Never once was I able to go to a meetup in real estate. I was never in real estate, but he was building just at that time. I think it was 2018, 2019. And real estate was galvanizing, and the snowball was going down the mountains, and it was getting bigger and bigger. It was growing like it was in most places in North America, Montreal, like it could have been New York, California. Interest rates were only 2%. They are not what they are today, 7, 8, whatever. So all that contributed to a healthy, strong, buoyant real estate throughout North America, because we all face similar challenges in terms of interest and inflation, et cetera, which dramatically affect real estate in particular. Anyways, so he was there, and he saw it. I don't know where he saw it because it wasn't that popular. It wasn't like big lights in Times Square, really under the radar. To find this meetup in downtown Montreal, 15 people came. They only talked technology. He brought up real estate. He was the only one. And he was just building. And I came to him after. We befriended each other. I asked him if he needed what I could do. And he said, first I asked him for a job. And he said, you know what, Myron, I don't think you want a job from me. And I said, why? I'll tell you why. Because it sounds like if you can get out of the kind of prison that you're in, you can go very far. If you get a job and I pay you something, I'm never going to pay you much more. And I'm never going to pay you what you're worth, probably. He was right. But when you're not doing much and you have very little money, it's a bitter pill to hear. Of course, he was right. Everybody judges things where they are in that point in their life. So if you're a multimillionaire, it's easy to come to the conclusion. But if you're on the street, it's not so easy to come to the conclusion. So when people have voice opinions, it all depends where they're coming from and where they are in their life. That dramatically, I look at that dramatically shapes that opinion to me. Anyways, the credibility of it. So he was right, of course, but I didn't push it, but he needed money. I found him private investors. They needed to grow. It was a healthy problem, a good problem. And then I found him successfully remunerated. And then he was looking for properties. Properties are particularly what's called off market. There's an on market and an off market in real estate. And that's where he would find his properties. He would do it. And then he needed help because as he was growing, like any entrepreneur, you couldn't do all things and be the same. And if you want to grow, you can't do what you were doing in your first week or 2 weeks successfully grow, because you have growth. With growth, there's challenges and new business opportunities, but new problems, new challenges, and new responsibilities. And that goes with the territory, to use the cliche. Anyways, I end up finding him some off-market, remunerated, and then I realized I have a tremendous skill. What is the skill of being basically a jackhammer? It spoke to, fortunately, what I do, because you need to be extraordinarily, not just resilient, but you need to be stubbornly aggressive. You know what I mean? In terms of following up. You need, as we know what a jackhammer machine does, it keeps going where other things fail until it does the job. So it's a good metaphor for perseverance. It's a machine that's exactly what it's called everywhere in the world, universally known, used in the construction industry, and used all the time. But that's the purpose of it. Otherwise, there is no purpose. And whoever invented it gave it a very peculiar name. I don't know why, but he called it, or she called it, the jackhammer. But everybody seems to know about it, whether real estate. So that's how it got me started, Dr. Ray. And then I realized the skill was there. Other people came to me, and I expanded my real estate network. But also, my big strength is a biz development expert. I'm able to create strategic partnerships. And in that course at 68, I reinvented myself. Remember, 67, 68. It was not till then. And people say, why? I said, I had no choice. It's when you have nothing, when you feel you have nothing to lose and you can't go lower, it's a pretty good motivating thing sometimes, because you either surrender and give up, or you go through the moon. One or two things are going to happen. You can't stay like that forever. You're not going to stay like that forever, because eventually you get sick of yourself and you get tired of yourself, and you got to do something, or you just fade away and nobody really cares anyway. You vanish. So, and I wrote a book on Amazon called The Jackhammer Effect. And the Jackhammer Effect is basically, like I said, learning how to stay young, which I wrote about it 40 ways, which is one of the secrets. If you're lucky to have someone who loves you, fine. But if you don't, but the key is staying young and never giving up, even though when you have every reason to give up, or you think the day will never get brighter. So if I could, at 67, 68, figure a way back, and by the way, this is my second act, so to speak, and I'm going to be stronger, more successful than ever, because I'm working on starting another business startup. We'll see what happens. I write fiction writing. There's a book I have to write in my head, and I'll tell you in the book, and I'll tell you the story. It's called Lincoln Was Here, because it's about what happens if Abraham Lincoln comes back to America in 2020. So, because I think you need someone like, God knows we need someone, a leader like Abraham Lincoln more than ever today. It's just someone that could capture the imagination, regardless of who you come or where you come from, and speak and be listened to in an inspiring, together way where Americans, particularly, and then the world, because whatever happens in America affects everywhere in the world, and we'll be able to look up to and find some common ground and common purpose, and eat away at the cancerous divisiveness that happens, because disagreeing is healthy, but not to the extreme. Now, that's not healthy. And again, as Mr. Lincoln said, America will never be defeated. By outside, it'll be by inside. You need somebody or someone like that to be able to inspire enough people, no matter where they're from, to say, let me listen to him or her. You just need somebody like that to let me listen, who can help people find some common ground. You need that. And a leader. And regardless of what people think. So I think if you really had that person, it would radically change the landscape, radically change it overnight. The people that are winning now would not be winning anymore. But that doesn't exist, to my knowledge, unfortunately, right now. There is nobody right now. So it's not free for all. And whatever, as we all know, people are doing what they're doing right now. But there is nobody that's capturing that imagination of a single person. Not now. Hope maybe it will, but there is nobody, and I don't know anybody in the horizon rising to that occasion. So that's my little story.
It's an impressive one at that. So a lot of individuals don't typically, after a certain age, I've seen a decline in where they just want to retire, relax, and not do much. However,
I hate that. Even if I have $100 million, I will never retire, because my wife always makes fun of me, but she'll retire eventually. She's very successful, and she looks forward to it. I'm just not that type, and I hope she will. And it's fine. I respect everybody. People want to go travel, and they've worked a hard life. They want to be able to wake up when they want to wake up and relish the fact that they have nothing to do. And that in itself is a luxury. I get it. I understand that. I'm not built that way, because to the day I die, even if I had, when I have it, there's people, and the money can help so many people and get involved in so many things. So from a nonprofit and even entrepreneurial, you'll be focused on the creative entrepreneurial world. There's so many people in their 20s and 30s that if I could, I know that I can inspire. And if I could at some point help financially, that's even better, of course, because you put your money where your mouth is even much better, because at the end of the day, dollars help, obviously, to tell people where it's going. There's no question. You can't replace that. So I think I'm hoping that I have a role to play that could lead and inspire people. And I want to play that role to the fullest as long as I can play it. But make no mistake about it, Doctor. I'm very cognizant of my age. The reality is, however old you are, in 10 years, I'm going to be 80. And that is the decade in 80 is a very precarious decade, I think. I have a sense of urgency in doing what I want to do, because, as anybody says, and friends, I'd be pretty stupid to ignore all that if I'm an ambitious person, because the reality is I'm not 30, 40, or 50 even. So I have a finite amount of years, but it's not even living years. It's years that you're healthy, because if you're not healthy to do what you want to do, you can't do it, obviously. So the wheelchair and all that, please God, hopefully not. I got to do what I got to do, but you need your health and you need your energy. And you can see I have the energy of a 20-year-old, but you need that, because, and I'm an extraordinarily optimistic person. I tend to see the glass half full, but that's also kept me going, mindset, even though God knows so many times I couldn't even see the glass, let alone half full or half empty.
Yeah, and I can see your personality and your positivity
Yeah.
does shine through your words and through your stories. So what do you think is like your driving factor, your spunk that keeps you to stay positive and continue looking at the world that way?
Yeah, as you hear banged in your head a million times, because the world, as glorious it is extremely nasty. We know that, but I don't need to be told how nasty it is, how cruel it is. I know it is. I look at history, I look at today. Everything's changed and nothing has changed. But at the same time, there are some magnificent people. A small example, my daughter lost her wallet, for example, and that's not a fun experience. It wasn't the money, the cards. It may seem like a small thing, but it's an extraordinarily annoying situation. And she gets a phone call from a bakery that found it on the floor and returned it to her, okay? Which is probably rare, but it's extraordinary. So that may be a small example, but a very poignant example. Mr. Senek, the right person, says, you need a why. I mean, you do. You need something to drive you, right? Like a car has gas, actually, you need a reason. I would hope you have a reason. What's the fire in your belly? What's the gut? You know what I mean? Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, I love it, on his daily newsletter, which is phenomenal, his podcast. The fire in my belly is to really, like I just articulated, to inspire and to share and to maybe hopefully contribute financially. Because when I talk to people and they appreciate it, that's a great thing. And then to matter. I don't use the cliche. I think I still have time and could do things that matter, because I think my personality, not I think I know, my personality is a type that could influence and affect in a very positive way. One thing I despise is bad people and not doing the right thing. I'm an extraordinarily liberal person. I'm not saying that really, I have no, what's the expression about the house being broken? I let everybody be great or be bad until they do it for, I really don't care who you are, what you are, because it's irrelevant to me. What I do care is what you do and how you behave and what you say. So when you hear things that are they're just like throwing grenades out there, and unfortunately, a lot of people like grenades and they follow grenades, and one grenade leads to another grenade. And it's amazing how it's amazing and it's scary and terrifying, but maybe it's not amazing, but it's still how certain people, they throw grenades and millions follow the grenade. But if they didn't throw a grenade, millions wouldn't follow the grenade either. So they're waiting for someone to either throw the grenade or light the candle. You know what I mean? Or watch the rainbow. Trust me. And the person who can lead and has a charisma has a lot of power. More power than, unfortunately, I wish they had or she had, but they have it. And you can see it. You can see it in the results. You see it. You don't have to make it up. You see it and you can count it. It's a real thing. I'd like to have that ability in a positive sense to really, as much of an uphill to bring, and I'm very candid. That's what like my wife says. I probably could never go into politics because I couldn't deal with all the garbage. A lot of things would be hard. But cartoonists would have a field day with me. I think she said they would have an absolute field day. So would the comedians probably. That's good.
I like that. Now, I work with a lot of my studies has to do with generational differences and and studying the different generations. And one thing that I've noticed is that right now, currently, millennials are entering their mid 30s to early 40s, and I keep hearing, "I'm getting old. I'm getting old," and that's the narrative
Tell
that
them to call me.
that's the narrative that I'm hearing. So, if you have any piece of advice to give that generation so that they can stay youthful, what would you tell them?
First of all, get the fucking thing out of your mind that you're getting old. That's completely garbage and nonsense. And if you keep saying that, so get old. I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say. If you're that stupid, and I pardon language, and that ridiculous to keep telling yourself at 30 something years old or 40 that you're old, then surrender. Call it a day and go live on an island. Okay. But the smarter ones, it's just if you could say it in passing and joking, it's one scenario. But if you really mean it, it's pathetic. There's no other word, and you know it. There's so much they need to do. There's so much the world needs them to do. And at 30, they're just getting going. There's never old. There's never young. It's a mindset. It's a cliche, but it's true. They're like that. Cliches are cliches for a reason because they keep repeating themselves. They're absolutely true. They're the axioms of life. That's why it's called a cliche. But fortunately or unfortunately, they're true. And I think it's a way of surrendering. Okay? It's a way of surrendering. So if you can do whatever you want to do, it's your God-given right. We live in North America, a democracy. So if you want to fade away and travel the world on a sailboat, if you can afford to, that's your prerogative. You don't have to do anything that matters. As long as you don't harm anybody, okay, verbally or physically or emotionally, and you take care of yourself, you can do whatever you want to do. I have no comment. I have no comment. I have no comment. I have no opinion because I respect the people. It's not what I would do, but doesn't mean I'm right. So I have no opinion. A lot of people would never do what I do. Okay. Or even do it at 70. Most people would retire. They think I'm insane in a nice way. And I understand that. They think they are. But I interviewed a couple of years ago people who were in their 60s going on their 40s and 30s who are never going to retire. And the common trait is, the common denominator, doctor, is they got stuff to do. It's not necessarily in business, but in nonprofit. They know they can matter. They know they can make a difference, and they want to. Now, not everybody has that need. They have a need. And everybody's different, right? So not everybody has that need, okay? I have a need to matter, make a difference, and impact people. There are other people that have a need just to go to Italy forever, rent a house, and live there, okay? I'd be very happy. And that's their right. That's cool. I love Italy. I just came back from Italy. But to rent a house or to buy a house and to live there indefinitely, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that right now because there's stuff I want to do. And just when I think I could pretend and fool myself, doctor, and be like the rest, bang, something hits me and say, no, I got to do this. So my advice is just, what do you want to do? The only mistake I would say don't ever make, don't fool yourself to think because you're 25, 35, or 45, that it's not going to be over. Because one day you're going to wake up and it's going to be too late to do what you want to do. Trust me, one day it's going to wake up. So whether it's 40 years old because of an illness, God forbid, or a physical thing that you didn't know would happen, or just age at 80 or 90, that day will come, whether you like it or not. Now, it's impossible to understand that at 20 or 30. I didn't either. I agree. But it will come. And the more, if you try to build wealth financially, people tell you, save whatever you can, compound. They're right. The earlier you start, you don't have to be in business, the more you're going to have. You start at 20. If you start at 70, it's a little late to do that. Okay. You start at 20, but you put even $5 a month. Doesn't matter. You don't need to put a lot, but you got 50, 60 years to put money aside. You're going to have money. There's no question. Compound your emotions. It's the same thing with anything else. It's not just a financial thing, which it is. And of course, it makes sense, but no question. They're absolutely right. 1,000,000%, something I unfortunately didn't do, but it's the same with your life. So it depends what you want. I think you always got to keep, as much as possible, what do you want to do? Because everything takes time. How you want to prioritize. I think you want to prioritize yourself. You want to focus. I think you want to spend energy, even if it's just traveling the world, on where you want to spend energy. Try not to waste too much time on garbage and nonsense. Like, TV's great, but I don't waste too much time because even if you watch CNN and Fox, they keep repeating the same fucking news over and over again like that. So you got to be careful the doses. They do it full time. It's like me calling the telephone company, Verizon, or in Canada, Bell Telephone, and complaining about something, okay? My wife wants to do that. I guess she has to. They're paid to sit on the phone with me for an hour or 2 hours. I hate. I'm not. It's like I have never waited in line for a drive-through. I came up to somebody. You know how much time people waste on a drive-through? What are you doing wasting a line drive-through? It doesn't matter. I once came up to a couple who was in a drive-through. They got mad. I said, "You're wasting your time here. What are you sitting?" They said, "Who the hell are you?" Right? They thought I was insane. Of course, I don't blame them. It's right. I said, "Sooner or later, it's going to all add up. What's going to happen? 40? Could you get the hell out?" They thought I was crazy. I had no right to bother them. You're right. But I just think the drive-throughs are the most stupidest thing in the world. I know they're very practical. I understand that. And I see people waiting in line. I go in, I wait. If the lineup's too long, I leave. I'm not going to sit there for an hour and wait for anything. As much as I love Starbucks, but I'm not doing that. Total waste of time. And eventually it's going to add up. I cannot do that. So I try to, as much as possible. I'm also working now, in more and more reading. What's his name? I can't remember. Yeah, Stephen King is one of my favorite authors. Not because I love horror, but I love his book on writing. And one of the things he does is he takes a book everywhere like that. So I tremendous admiration for a man like that. We started from nothing, built us up. But many writers, that's a magical thing to be able to take something and spin the words where people take people on an experience, a trip, a journey, an imagination, and they love it and they read it like he does and so many other authors. That's an unbelievable thing. It's just unbelievable. That's one of the great things about humanity, that the people who create the music, the art, I'm not saying the others are not, but these are what makes us great.
I love that. And I know, just going back to your book, and then we are running out of time. So this is going to be probably my last question to you
Yeah, I
before
have
we
a
ask.
tendency of doing that.
It's okay. Before we ask the other question, my second to last question. For your book, you mentioned that you help people make business deals for those who can't. Can you explain on that and maybe give us a couple examples?
Yeah, for sure. I call it strategic partnership. So over the years, I put together Heidi Klum and New Balance. I'm sure you heard of Heidi Klum. I'm sure you heard New Balance. What did I do in 2010, 12? The company I was working for at that point, down and out, had the license for Heidi Klum. She was married to a gentleman named Seal. She's not married, of course, now for a while. She just finished her pregnancy. They were making maternity clothes. What were they going to do next? And I suggested maybe they team up with create a running shoe. And she thought it was great. The whole Lululemon, I'm sure you heard of that apparel was exploding. It still is exploding. And that whole area, the genre of apparel, and correctly, the whole woman's fashion, active fashion, the activewear fashion, yoga, gym was exploding. But there's a company called New Balance who makes a great running shoe, and they're they're a private company. They do a couple of $1 billion a year. By most people, those are like just numbers that nobody could fathom. But compared to our Nike Adidas, that's 35, 40 billion. They're small, but they're not a public company. So I said, I thought of making a partnership, a strategic partnership between Heidi Klum and New Balance. They could use her name, even then, 10 years ago, she was a brilliant woman, and they can use her status and she can use their credibility as a phenomenal running shoe. It was a match. I did that. Then I brought together a new travel startup in New York City. I put them together with Madison Square Garden. We all heard. I put them together with Radio City Music Hall to help boost their business, boost their visibility. Okay. I've reached out to the New England Patriots during COVID. And all this is cool, by the way. I had no warm introductions. So strategic partnerships, no warm introductions. And I put together them and Seal, who, that maybe he would sing because I knew somebody who represented Seal, and he loved the New England Patriots. He's very knowledgeable, maybe because he's from England and they're called New England. I don't know, but he's extremely knowledgeable. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for financial reasons, but they had a great Zoom together. So what I mean is that I put together companies for whatever the reason, small and medium and larger, with other companies who targeted similar customers, but from different perspectives, and together in a cost-effective way, they can help grow their business. And that's what I do. It's particularly beneficial for small, medium-sized startups like that. Big, huge companies could do what the hell they want to do.
That's interesting. So it's a lot of collaborating and seeing
what cold calling and being a jackhammer. I'm working on a way to democratize. I call it Want to Grow, where everybody, unfortunately, for most startups and small businesses, they could use a benefit, but they don't know where to go, where to start. And it's extremely difficult because you reach out to people who either don't want to reach out, don't know you, and it's like a real atomic bomb to the ego, if you can imagine. Not fun.
Yeah, I could only imagine. Now, from my last question for you, which is the whole premise of the podcast, is creating unicorns and being able to tap into your inner potential. If somebody is interested in opening up their own business like you did, what are some pieces of advice that you can give them so that they can start on their journey?
Do it now. Now, I know it sounds like a platitude, but look, I have something I write a call to action. If I could, I don't have it all in my head. If I can read that, I think that's important. It's going to repeat, but it's an answer to your question. If it's okay with you, if I read it quickly. Okay. So basically, as you could, everybody listening can see, age is just a number. I lived that. So whatever I say, I've lived. So I'm not 21 and talking about it. Nothing wrong with being 21. I wish I was, but I'm not. Not really. It is what it is. I have 2 phenomenal kids. I am what it is. But so whatever your age or circumstances, it's never too late this is the answer, too late or too early to pursue your dreams. So following this podcast, I want everybody listening who really wants to do something, whatever it is they want to do. It doesn't really matter. It could be, like you say, a business or anything. They want to become a psychology professor at Berkeley, whatever the hell they want to do, right? It takes time. So I want you to list 3 things you want to accomplish, okay? The first is something you want to do right now. Second is something you want to do this year. And the third is something you want to do in the next 3 years. And take a leap and start with your right now, okay? That's the key. They procrastinate. So for your second and third, start your year planning specific steps to achieve them right now, okay? It doesn't happen unless you make it happen, okay? That's the only difference, okay? There is hope. There is inspiration. There is inaction. It's all about action. So I decided to become, not just in real estate, but a business development expert. You're never too young or too old to do something or pursue something. But here's the key in your dreams. You have to start. You have to start now. That's obvious, but it's not obvious. If it was obvious, a lot of people wouldn't need to listen to me. It's not obvious. For all the obvious reasons they don't start, fear and all that. We know all that. We all live all that. But if you're never going to get out of those chains, you're never going to do anything. You fumble. What happens? Like a kid who's walking. He can't walk. He's too much of a baby. He starts to walk. He falls down. He walks again. He falls down. It's a metaphor. It's an example. And eventually he can walk. So either you'll learn from your mistakes and you'll grow, but you'll never learn anything if you don't do it. Go do it.
I love that. And that's just the best advice to do.
There's no other way. There is no other way.
Yeah, you have to do it right now.
It will never happen. For sure. I can guarantee, can't guarantee you anything will happen that you want to dream, but I can guarantee you, as sure as I'm talking to you, that nothing will happen if you don't start. 100% nothing will happen. So it's up to you. How badly do you want it? You have to be hungry, doctor. Yeah, and I don't mean for lasagna. You have to be hungry. If you're not hungry enough, you don't deserve it. It's not going to happen. You have to want it bad.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, for listeners, if they want to buy your book, if they want to get in contact with you, how can they do?
They can reach me on LinkedIn. I'd love to reach them on LinkedIn. They could. My book is on Amazon.com.ca by Myron Wellick, like 1 million other or 10 billion other books there. So they can, my pleasure. I'd love a review. That would be great. Good or bad, they hate it. It's a pretty inexpensive book, $10. And they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm right there. By email, phone number. I'd love to connect to anybody.
Perfect. And for listeners, Myron will, for listeners, I'll have all these links in the show notes. And if you actually go to my website at raygoza-consulting.com, you'll see Myron on the Unicorn Wall of Fame with all the other unicorns that have come out on the show. And you'll have a description of everything he talked about today, along with the links there as well. Quick reminders. Episodes come out every Friday at 7 a.m. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Myron, thank you so much for your tidbits.
Oh, thank you. Is that 7 a.m. Pacific time, doctor?
Yes. 7 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you
Perfect.
for clarifying. Perfect. And thank you again. And we'll talk soon. Thank you for listening to the Finding the Unicorn in You podcast. I truly appreciate you listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and gained valuable insights. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep growing. Until next time, this is Dr. Jaime G. Raygoza signing off.